This I put together as a possible Kickstarter thing, but what I wanted to sort of show you, because we touched on, my sketchbooks, that they go everywhere I go. I carry a sketchbook everywhere, always and forever. Various kinds, various sizes, various shapes, and you should too. You never know when inspiration is going to strike, and you also need to be drawing all the time. If you're going to be a comic guy, it's all about drawing. No ifs, ands, or buts. Period. It is comics. It's all about it's drawing, 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 forever and ever. Amen. And if you're going to be a painter, it's about drawing. I mean, drawing is the key. And so the sketchbooks for me are invaluable, not only as memory devices, right? Like journaling, writing about my life and what I see and what I think, ideation, coming up with ideas or whatever. I mean, it all, it's what I say about doing layouts, and you'll hear it throughout the course over and over, is that, nothing is real until it hits paper, yeah, but now we could say, well, until it hits digital, but that's vapor, right? That's not real. And if you have a hard drive failure, it's gone. Just saying. Paper is forever. When it hits paper, that's real. You can have a zillion amazing ideas that are better than any idea that ever came before it. But if it doesn't hit paper, it ain't real. It's still locked inside your head. It ain't real. No one knows. No one cares. You may try to convince yourself, but I know it. I know it. It's like, I don't care. I don't know it. I can't see it. Art directors can't see it. If I can't see it, it ain't real, right? It has to hit paper. It has to become real. It has to be something tangible that you can mess with. And I tell this to my illustration students all the time. And I know, like, we live in a digital world, and I know that, comic books, a lot of the original art has gone digital. I know that a lot of illustration is digital. And I'm one of the old farts who will forever fight it because it ain't real, and a big chunk of my income comes from selling this physical, cool stuff that people can hold and own, right? You can make prints. Okay. It's a print, I mean, it's okay. It's a print. It's not real. It's not a real piece of art. To me, that's like whole other game, whole other world. And honestly, I think it's harder. It's more difficult because you can play till the cows come home on a digital thing and till you get it polished and it's there, but here you're playing with fire, man. It either works or it don't work, and you got to make it work. You got to really make it happen here. You can't just hope for keep hitting undo until it looks kind of cool and you keep polishing that turd. No, you got to make it happen. And that to me that's a whole other world, a whole other game. That's the Beatles, recording live without a bunch of overdub until later when you get, So I realize I'm being the nasty, disgruntled old fart, that's hearkening back to the good old days. But, you like going to museums? There's a reason why the museums are cool, because that's original art. You can see the artist touched it. It's real. There's a difference. So anyway, sketchbooks are invaluable for that whole experience, tactile experience. And there's a difference too that I do want to call up, working on this has a certain texture to it, right? That's different than, I don't have my other sketchbooks up here, but that's different than this texture. That's different than, you name it. It's different than this texture. And then when I use a crayon, I pull out a crayon. When I draw on this, that's different than drawing on this or drawing on this paper or on the cover of every one of these is a different animal. And there's this thing called tactile feedback. And yeah, okay, you got haptics. Oh, it clicked. Wow, I feel like I'm drawing. No. I'm sliding over a piece of glass but it looks like a brush drawing. Wow, but I'm sliding over a piece of glass. Oh, let me change it to a pen. Oh, I'm still sliding over a piece of glass. It's the same damn thing. Every time, if I get a dip pen out, which I don't have my stuff out, that's a different animal. A pencil is a different animal. A pen, my gel pen, wherever that is, that's a different animal. My fountain pen, a different animal. That's a very quantifiable difference in what happens to the marks that you're making. And there is constant feedback, and you know where you are, except with a brush. A brush doesn't give feedback. A brush is this weird thing. You have to be looking at it to really understand where you are and what's happening with that push and pull, that thick and thin. You have to be aware of it. But with pens, I can feel where I am on the page. I can feel how hard or soft I'm pushing on that thing, and it responds in kind. I mean, it is that sensitive. And yes, believe me, I mean, I love my Apple Pencil. That's a game changer with Procreate. It's unbelievable because it really looks like a pencil when I lay it down. I can lay on the side and it looks like pencil. I can tip up on the tip and it looks like a pencil. But it's not giving me the pencil feedback, right? That's really vital. And hey, and I get it. I might be one of these, it's like I'm from the 1800s and you guys are from the future and maybe you don't need that stuff. But I think it's important as an artist to have that feedback because it's part of the emotional connection to what you're doing and the lines you're putting down. So, all right, soapbox time, right? So anyway, and you'll see the difference in the images that you see in here, right? Like even on this cover, what I did was it's a leather cover on my old sketchbooks. The moleskins are some kind of cloth. I don't know what it is. So what I did was I taped it off and I took sandpaper and I distressed that leather and then I covered it with white acrylic. And then I'll let that dry really well. Then I took etching ink, covered it totally in black, and then went in and did basically a monotype without printing it. So I used, a brush with turpentine on it and pulled out my light. Slowly the light would show. And then I could use the wooden end of the brush for that halo, scraping with the wood, scraping the ink off of the stuff. So like this piece here, this is my forward, but it's a dip pen that I dipped in ink and then drew. And then I took a roller with black acrylic and rolled over it, which is this stuff. And you don't know what you're going to get. You get what you get, and you got to live with it. And then I rolled some of it off and ran it over this. It became, so it was like it wasn't a full inked roller, but it gave me that interesting, cool halftone, right? And then you can see where I went in and added white acrylic to bring light back into this piece, right? And you can see my thumbprints in here. It gives you an idea of the scale, right? This is a pencil drawing in a moleskin book from life. And there's no setup lines. I didn't sit there and I got to do my circle and I'm going to build this, No. She was sleeping. Boom, because I don't know if she's going to move, right? I can't. So, man, I'm just going for it, man. Put that line down like you mean it. Like your confidence, put it down. Believe in it. If you mess up, so what? Give yourself permission to fail, You have to do it. If you're not screwing up, you're doing it wrong. You have to be screwing up because that's where you learn things. That's how you grow. If you're unwilling to do that, you're going to be in stasis. You're only going to be doing the things you can do, and you're going to forever be creeping up on that precipice. Like, what's too far? What's too far? Go too far, and then you're going to know when you've gone too far. Then you pull back a little bit, right? Step off the cliff. Go off the cliff. And I'm using the eraser in here as a drawing device, not as a correction device. But yeah, put the lines down like you mean it. Like here, boom, look at this line. The back that I wish I could, I guess, oh, I can use this. That shows up, right? So look at this line, right? That's one long ass line all the way down. Just go for it. You know what I mean? And then that told me more about where this line ought to go. And this is one line. And I'm pushing down harder here. Then I'm lightening up. I'm pushing down harder. You know, as I move away from light, I push harder. When I'm towards light, I can go lighter. And even without having to add shadow, even though I did add shadows in this, I could like give you a sense of volume, a sense of light without doing shadows just by the weight of my line, right? That's important. There's the full on of that. So again, eraser as drawing device, not correction device. Straight up drawing. You just got to go for it. So this is all pencil. That was on the beach. I forget where that was. This way. Just to kind of, I want to underscore what we're talking about here a little bit about this, the importance of drawing. So I'm talking about sketchbooks, right? You know, and I'm a freak, but I'm not alone. There's a lot of freaks like me, but just this is what I lug around. Part of what I lug around. If I pulled out my bag, I would show you like the backpack. The sides are festooned with, I've got so many different kinds of pens and pencils, but this thing, I got this from Peg and All. They hand make these things. It's pretty cool. It's called the Syndac. The Syndac from Peg and All. I think they're out of Philadelphia. Really cool. A husband and wife team does all this wild stuff. I lug this thing around. Yeah, is it a pain in the ass? Absolutely. But I don't do this. I left it at home, you know. So I've got every one of these things makes a different kind of mark, right? This is a parallel pen. I think Pentel makes these. I'm not sure. It's my students turned me on to this, and I'm like, what the hell? Oh man, I want one. And you know, so that thick and thin, you know. It's crazy. So that's that one, and then here's this other one, which is a thicker point. Yeah. Oh, this has red ink in it. All right, fine. Maybe not so fine. All right. This one will be normal. All right. It's a thicker line, right? But you can still go thin. Cool stuff. All right. You know, you've already seen the, you know, gel pen. These are cool. This is an eraser by Mono. This one is like a flat. But there's another one that's a thin one. Invaluable little tool, and that's how I'm doing that drawing with an eraser in these sketchbooks. You know, like in here, that's pulling that out. You know, that little scribble, that's this. What else do I have in my bag of tricks? Let's see. This is a Falcon fountain pen. Let's see that? That thick, thin stuff, man, that's the stuff. I can flip it over and I can do thick stuff with it too by flipping it over. I could also do thinner stuff with it by flipping it over. You can take sandpaper and file these and create your own sort of mark, right? Your own nib. My favorite, these are made by Pilot, is the Custom 98. It's my go-to fountain pen. Same, it's a little finer, It goes thick though, right? I can spit on it. This paper absorbs quickly. And smear it, you know. There's this pen. I don't know which one this is. It's Pentel makes this too. And it's just it's a marker, but it's got a fine point on it. So it's a whole different mark making experience. Oh, this got really dirty. There's another one by Pentel that's also a finer, but goes into, it's like you get different qualities out of all of these. And I was going to bring up this, the pencil action here. I draw, yeah, there are times when I'll get down on something. This is the Blackwing pencil sharpener. It's a two-stage puppy that first you blunt it and then you point it. Super fine, okay? I may go tight like that. But a lot of times I'll draw like I'm holding a knife and, whoa, see, I just broke it. But give it that push, and then I can lighten up. So actually, let me cartoon him a little bit. Make his nose even bigger. Big hat. Oh. Hair coming down. Bigger mustache. There's your core shadow right there. There it is. Okay. That comes under. But you'd be surprised, like if you notice, like I'm able to fly over this page because I'm not doing this. If I'm doing this, I'm limited. I'm severely limited by the kinds of marks I can make. But here, man, I can be all over the place. And if I need to, yeah, I can get down and say, well, okay, I want to like come in here and maybe tighten this up a little bit, whatever. I can do that. But man, I want to get to the meat of this thing and get some serious drawing happening here, and there's that big shadow that comes down off his nose. That's fun. A well of shadow here where the mustache and beard meet on the side of the face. Underneath the lip. If I squint, I start to see how there's more shape melding going on. Shape welding. And there's a little buckle on the end of this thing, but I'm going to make it big. Yeah, let's make a big buckle. We're cartooning a little bit, right? But anyway, it's like you can get there's so much to be had out of a pencil. And yet everyone does this. And how many people are using mechanical pencils? I constantly tell my students, like, that's the tool of the devil, because I want to see a mechanical pencil do this. Oh, that's right, it can't. It's like, but it can make it look like that, but they've got to go like this. They have to do this, that, and then they've got to make it a little bit bigger, and they got to keep adding to get that thing I did in less than a second, right? It's so emotive. It can give you so much, and yet everybody goes to that mechanical pencil. I don't own a mechanical pencil. I refuse. But and again, like I mentioned, these crayons, right? And you think of, if anybody recently has experienced Crayola, it's like, wow, it drives me insane. It's like drawing with the end of a candle. But here, I'm not even adding pressure, and this is making a mark. But let me add pressure. Wham! Look at that. Look at that stuff. I can also lay down on it if I want to. I could break a piece off and use it like almost like a pastel, a flat of a pastel. And I can get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You know what I mean? Let's see a Crayola do that. It's not going to. I don't know what else I got in here. Of course, I got my brush. These I swear by, but they've become increasingly harder to find. The 8404 Raphael Kolinsky sables. They're a little more expensive because it's sable, But man, some of these are the ones I used when I worked on Wolverine. They last forever. I think that. Well, then I have, on top of that, I have the Pentel brush pen. That's a great little device. And this, watch it be out of ink. Yep. But I treasure those because let's see what this one is like. Okay, here you go. So between these two, I have a really interesting range because what it can't do is what this brush can do. If I dip this in ink, I would get this, which is a full-on, you see how fine this can be? I can get a full-on solid line. But what it can't do is run out of ink until much later because it's a cartridge and give me this stuff, which this is not the greatest dry brush, but I can use this. I can do, if I mash it down, so now I've got the split hairs. That's great for doing like animal fur and things, I love this stuff. Oh, this way. FW acrylic ink. My buddy Scott Hampton turned me onto this. I love it. What do I do? There we go. So these brushes, like they snap. I used to swear by, all the old cartoonists did, they swore by Winsor Newton Series 7s. But back in the late 80s, at least, they changed their formula, and those things just didn't hold up. And so I bought one of these Raphaels, and man, I have loved them ever since, but they're hard to get. You can order them as long as you're out of the States. For some reason, they can't ship to the States, the company itself. So I've ordered them now from companies in Canada and Europe. So I'm able to get them, which is cool. So remember what I was sort of saying about tactile feedback. Brushes, and there are, I'm sure, guaranteed there's probably people out there that can do blind brush drawings and stuff like that. Some Zen master somewhere, that ain't me. But I have to look at what's going on because there's nothing coming back from the brush. There's nothing. You can't feel anything. Even if rough paper, you wouldn't feel anything. It's just hair laying down ink, right? But the beauty of a brush dipped in ink is, and again, thinking digitally, right? They can emulate these effects, but here I have supreme control over some aspects of what's happening. On that, you're going to get what you get because it's programmed that way. And yeah, you can tweak out the differences. Like if I go faster, it does this. If I go slower, it does this, blah, blah, blah. But but it's, but it is what it is. With this, there's a randomness to this that we'll never have. Okay, never say never, but right now that doesn't have. Um, but that kind of stuff, where it's not, if I did that digitally, yeah, you can program it, but you're going to get roughly the same thing over and over, even though, like, even in Procreate, they do a great job of the way their brushes are handled. But, this full on thing is awesome. And then as it runs out of ink, I start getting, look at that stuff. Wow, that's cool. Look at that. So I can force that. I can take this and I can, mash it out. Let's get some split hair going. And now I could build up really cool animal fur or a fur coat, whatever. And if you have a smaller brush, you can get, well, I don't have a smaller one in here. You can get like Frazetta would use like a number 1 or a number 2. This is a number 3. Or maybe even a 0. I don't know what Frazetta was using to split his hairs. And he would do that lion fur, right? Or the end of Tarzan's, whatever you call it. I can't think of it offhand, his underpants, but to get that fur look, he would split those hairs and just whip that, right? Bernie Wrightson was a master of and Frazetta were masters of the feathering, this stuff. They would build up, and I'm being really not careful with this, so it's not going to look like that, but they would do this feathering thing, man, they could turn form so beautifully with that. And I've been going the opposite, like the Jeff Jones more blunt sort of brush stuff, and then coming in, I've really been embracing the dry brush for effects to give myself value and tone, so fun stuff. And you can push, and then there's other things too. I mean, just, with like even taking your paper towels, depending on the brand you get, like this has an interesting pattern in it, right? So, I could take this, get a little bit of ink on it. It's going to be too much probably. And get a very interesting texture out of that I could use in a background or it could be the dirt. These people are walking up a road. And the beauty is this stuff, when you get macro and you scan these can be scanned as line art, right? Bitmaps, and look just like this because it's made up. When you get on the macro level, you zoom in on this. This is just a bunch of little dots of ink, which have integrity to them, and it can be scanned that way. So this can show up just like the way it looks in a comic book. It can be a really great device. It even starts to look almost like a tree, right? But that's the stuff. See, maybe someone's done that. They digitized this and made a brush out of it. Like I could scan this and make a brush out of it in a heartbeat. I could do it with my phone, send it to Procreate, and I got a brush. Okay, fine. And I enjoy that. It's a lot of fun. But, there's something about getting dirty with this stuff that's very different. It challenges you. It forces you to like actually have to step up, and I can't hit undo here. I've got to live with it. I've got to work with it. I've got to make it happen. And that to me, you develop a certain sense of, adventurousness and exploration that doesn't happen over here. Like there's a happy accident. Well, there's accidents, not all of them happy, but you learn to make them happy accidents. Where here, what the digital is lacking is the happy accident. There are no accidents. And I can manufacture the accidents, and I've learned how to do it because I know how this happens, right? But those who don't know what happy accidents are can't manufacture something they don't know anything about. That's a big difference. So I suggest, obviously whatever assignments we come up with in this thing, you're going to do whatever you're going to do. But man, I urge you to bust out the traditional supplies and work with them. Are they frustrating? Absolutely. They can drive you insane, but you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to have a lot of stuff that you could turn into digital brushwork, literally within minutes, and that no one else will have. I could turn this into a brush, and no one on the face of the planet has this brush. It's all mine, and I've done that. I've got all kinds of brushes that I use in Procreate that I created that feel like Sumi brushes and things like that no one else on the planet has. They are mine. But I prefer this stuff, and I have a lot of fun playing on, and I'll show you some of that, playing on Procreate. All right, back to Sketchbook. Anyway, that was a weird tangent, but hopefully, it's underscoring a lot of like the things that are important to me as a creator. And see, I got dirty. That's not digital ink. That are important to me because I think that you learn so much more through traditional skill set that will benefit you in massive ways that people that are just digital don't have. It will make you an indispensable person in whatever thing you're doing. If you're in gaming or whatever, this gives you a confidence a lot of digital guys don't have, and also a knowledge of mark making and things that you bring to digital that will transform your work in incredible ways.